All right, so the next part of the agenda was to talk about estimating and budgeting for your site. So the front part was all about quantity, and so that's kind of what this phase was just identifying how much stuff do you need, and then once you have the amount of stuff, then from there you can start to actually do your pricing. And so let's see here. There we go. So you price everything up, and then I have a little subtotal here, and it's called your direct cost subtotal. So direct costs are those costs that are the hard costs. They're the things that go directly to paying for the material, paying for, like if somebody has to deliver that material to you. All those things should be captured up there. Then at the bottom, we have some kind of indirect costs, and these are things that are a little looser, a little more gray area, and don't directly contribute to the work. And that is, I have contingencies there. So I think 5% is a really good place to go with contingency, but it's honestly whatever you feel comfortable with. Have a little bit of a slush fund there, because the name of the game in construction is that there's always unforeseen conditions. You're always going to come up upon something that you may not have expected. Everybody that does construction always has some sort of fund set aside. So we do a lot of work for hospitals in town, for instance, my company, and the hospital has a budget for the job. So they always have their budget, and they always add 10% because they know that you open up a wall, you might find something you didn't expect. And the same thing here as well. You never know what we might find down below the surface of the pavement, or you might you price something up and then you might see a cost increase if you wait a while between doing your estimate and doing the actual work. So I think for us, 5% seemed like a good contingency fund. And then permits, if you have to permit it, I would go somewhere between 3 and 5%. Or if you wish, you could call BDS, the Bureau of Development Services in town, and they can help you kind of give you a gauge. Most of the time, projects and permits are based on the amount that you plan to spend on the project. They call it the project valuation. So you'd say, it's going to cost this much, and they would say, oh, okay, in that case, we'll charge you so much. In our case, we didn't permit because we aren't moving 10 yards of soil, and we aren't affecting over 5,000 square feet. So we said 0 there. So that came up with our total project cost. What kind of questions do we have at this point? Are we good?
You also talked about, in regards to why did we leave the cement around the border, you talked about the pea gravel not migrating.
Oh yeah, that's true too, good point. Yeah, that was another good reason for us to leave the perimeter in, because it kind of created a curb, so to speak, that would keep the gravel in and keep it from sort of spreading over time. You know, a lot of times with a gravel road, you end up having to regrade it and also put more gravel on it year after year, every couple of years. That's because the road bed is just sort of rutting out and also sort of spreading. So the hope is that with this border, it'll kind of keep that intact. One thing that's also really important to keep in mind if you decide to go with permeable pavers, you absolutely need to have a curb that's built in, and the curb itself should actually go down about, it should be about 12 inches tall, standing proud of the soil by a few inches and going down about 10 inches. And that is so that you created a kind of a firm perimeter so that those pavers don't want to spread out over time, because as you walk or drive or whatever on them, they're going to want to kind of creep. So, anything else? Okay, so we've kind of talked about pre-existing conditions, we've talked about design, now we've talked about the money aspect and kind of what we're planning to create. As you make these takeoffs also and know, oh, I have 4 cubic yards, think about where are we going to put it. So in our case, we decided to put it out on the street, and we got some cones in order to set up. I know a lot of the tool libraries will provide cones also, and if you have compost, for instance, like we do, lay down a tarp, because one thing we want to be careful about is runoff. Like yesterday, it was very rainy, so you don't want the rain to hit that and then start to send all your compost down the gutters, because 1, you're losing your compost, and 2, your neighbors are going to hate you. and you're going to potentially plug up storm drains and things like that. So you also notice out there that we have a bio bag in the gutter itself, and that's to capture any more sediment or runoff. And a bio bag is like a big netted bag with a bunch of kind of wood chips, bark dust in there that helps to kind of absorb contaminants and absorb and catch sediments, like a filter, essentially. So anyway, now we're to the point where I think we can talk about kind of preparing and actually doing the work.